But I think one huge benefit of being in that time was that I created and tried things and maybe showed people around me, but I didn't have that pressure of, oh, I've posted it online, then I've only gotten 4 likes after 2 weeks. That's something which kills a lot of creatives, and then they end up not sharing.
True.
The other thing, and there's a documentary which every single young creative should watch, Social Dilemma. There's Social Dilemma, and then if you're interested in the political side of it, there's also The Great Hack. Those 2 documentaries are supremely powerful because they let you know just how dangerous sometimes social media platforms can be. These things have been designed to make you addicted to them.
Hey everyone, we are back again. This is the Creative Scene, episode 7. Episode 7, Alex. Niaje?
Me niko poa.
How have you been?
A week has been fine.
What have you been up to?
I've been doing some edits. Yeah.
Nice. My week has also been great. We just released our previous episode with Chabet Kimeto. Yes, we had a conversation around motion graphics and a bit of conversation around opportunities for women in the creative industry. It was an amazing conversation, so make sure you check it out on our YouTube channels. This is the 7th episode. Just to remind you what the Creative Scene is. This is a platform where we allow creatives to learn from the journey of other creatives. Aside from that, we also offer we share opportunities that are out there, and we share insights within the creative industry and how we can all grow together within the creative industry. Yes. So Alex, before we start, I wanted us to talk about the education system when it comes to creativity. What's your take on the education system? Would you prefer going to school, or would you prefer learning stuff on your own?
Personally, I would prefer going to school, but involve the online, like YouTube, in my research to boost my skills and my workflow. Yeah.
But would you say the education system when it comes to creativity is a bit backdated? There isn't like so much information in regards
schools.
to development here, the creative industry na technologies zenye zina come up. I feel like there's that gap yenye
haifunzwi shule.
Yeah.
Mostly shule mingi za Kenya you are taught like 25% and the 75% no unajitafutia. So hiyo ni ka your assignment na ufanye research, you perfect. But I prefer learning in school. Then I do my research on the online platforms, YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I'd rather do it on my own. I think with that dedication, and if you have enough time to do it, I think you can do it. Plus, I feel like if you learn by yourself, and motivation, there's probably so much you'll learn by yourself. Maybe you wouldn't have covered it in school. Anyway, this is the 7th episode, and we are glad to have an amazing guest. He is a digital illustrator. He's worked with multiple brands. He's won a couple of awards. He is an illustrator, he is a designer, and also a lecturer. So you've probably interacted with him somewhere. Also, he's been attending so many events, so definitely you've seen this guy. You have seen this guy, definitely. Just to mention a few of his achievements, he has been recognized in his field. He won the Young African Artist Prize by MasterCard Foundation, and the digital art, or the best digital art in Sandeka Awards. This was which year?
Am I forgetting? I think 2019. Yes, 2019.
Yes, and we are glad to have our an amazing guest, digital illustrator, the one and only Brian Omolo.
Asante sana. Thanks for having me. I've been watching you guys, your podcast. So when I saw you guys are looking for guests, I was like, let me sign up.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's great. That's great. We've been seeing you everywhere. Like you're everywhere, which is great still.
Yeah. I think I'm now realizing I'm not old, but I'm getting older. Like I realized, and I graduated in 2011, and I went to college, but also went to uni. So I had like a combined 5 years of after school education.
Okay.
And then like the creative industry, you start realizing, hey, you have to you have to expose yourself, be in different spaces, meet people. And I'm glad I do that, because now I'm just realizing that, if I want to know someone from film, there's so and so, so and so. If I want to know someone from art, there's so and so, so and so. And then it's cool to see now like a younger generation than me come in and do things differently and grasp. So it's been a really cool journey, so far. Yeah.
And it's amazing to see how you're willing to support creatives who are coming up.
Yes, yeah, it's important. Sometimes people have this, like I remember the very first interview I went to when I had finished college and I was looking for a job. I think the guy was called Paul. I've forgotten his other name. So they ask you questions. Afterwards, you get to ask. So I asked him, what's something that you think is challenging about the industry that you're in? And he said how sometimes people have that mentality of, for me to succeed, you must die, But what we don't understand is that if we have more people who are good, the industry grows, we can solve bigger problems. And then, like, clients are not just here. Opportunities are not just here. Opportunities are everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, we have people who, like, you'll find people do movies in Hollywood, but sometimes they even outsource some of the animation or CG work to other continents. And why not us? So I feel like the more you give, the more you build what's around you, the more it will come back. Yeah, the more we'll all flourish. Yeah.
And I like the fact that you brought it up, because our previous guest actually mentioned the exact same thing. We asked him the challenge that he has faced in the creative industry, and he mentioned that creatives aren't willing to collaborate. Like, people just want to work on projects by themselves. Yeah, but he mentioned that there's a power in collaboration. There's so much you can do when you collaborate with others. Yeah.
I think it also takes a lot of emotional intelligence to know how you're going to work with someone else that is not, like your family already knows you. If you grew up with siblings, or you grew up with your parents, or you just grew up with people, those people over time have come to know you. They know when your face is looking a certain way, he's not in the mood for communication right now. Or this one he like to do. Or, hey, you can watch this movie. Before you even speak, just the way you reacted, they know how you feel. But now when you're collaborating with people who you've met now as a grown-up, that person's already a person. They're already who they are. It takes emotional intelligence to know how you're going to work with those people. I think what I would ask people to do is don't give up on collaboration. I think there's scenarios where people are open to collaborating, but be aware on what people want from the collaboration. There's some want a collaboration where they'll just have fun. They'll have fun, hopefully they'll create something cool, but mostly they want to enjoy the experience. Then there are others who are like, we must make something amazing, send it and win awards everywhere. So that one who has that kind of an ambition, there's a certain way they'll want things to move. They'll have a certain pressure, they have they have goals. They're like, yo, guys, you were supposed to be at 8, you're here at 8:05. What's going on? So understanding different people, understanding what their goals are, their motivations, then you're more closer to finding where you and someone else can collaborate. But more important also, I think we've slowly entered this world where people would rather be freelancers, consultants, operate in their own space, have their autonomy. The next challenge is to figure out like how those spaces can work and come together. Because as much as we want to do our own thing, we still need another, like what a previous guest said. That's very true. What has been good for me is to set up situations where nobody feels obligated that we must be all here, we must do everything together. A lot of times young creatives, us as a group, let's start a company together. But a company is really like a marriage.
Yeah, true.
Are you ready to marry people who you've known for a few years or a few months? You're still young, you don't know how your life is going to develop. You don't know how you like to. There are some people who like to create silently in their own space. Others love to be around people. Others are open to discovering different things. Some are even open to maybe moving to another country, create there for a bit, come back, or never come back. So I think have creative situations where you guys come together for a certain project and then it goes. And then as you develop, you'll go from there. Some get to a point where they're like, you know what, let's start a company with someone. Like I feel now you're going in wise, you know what you're getting into. A lot of times, like me, I've set up collaborations with people who you didn't quite understand what you're getting yourself into. And then maybe it doesn't quite go as you had hoped. But I don't see it as a bad thing because it was all necessary for me to have the wisdom and to get to where I am today. But you're very right. Digital artists, like when it comes to traditional artists, because the first creative space or community that I joined with, especially after graduating and coming back, were the artists at Kuona Trust. One thing I've seen about digital artists is they always somehow meet up. They don't all agree. They definitely have their drama. But if you want to meet up with digital artists, with traditional artists, I know where I'll go. I know where I'll find them. They're a really good community for me starting out. But I think with the digital artists, we don't have as many spaces. But I would like to shout out the likes of Nikon. Nikon have done a good job of creating a space for people who are into comic and pop culture.
Yeah.
Also, Nairobi Design Week also done a really good job of creating exhibitions, like the festival. Beyond that, some others that come to mind. Some schools also have done that. Have done a good job of doing that. But we need more. Community is very, very important.
So being an illustrator, a lecturer at the ADMI Institute,
Yes.
how has that affected your evolution as a creative?
I think it's been amazing. Like one thing I knew about myself was, I don't know if there's like a scientific test you can do. Everyone is like, me, I'm an introvert, me, I'm an extrovert. I wish there's like a test where you just know, you kupatia karatasi. I think I do have some extroverted tendencies, but I also sometimes like to be alone so I can really go into that creative zone. But as I was getting inspired and learning that I actually want to be an illustrator, I realized that a lot of times illustrators end up being freelance, working alone. I just knew I wouldn't be happy just being alone all the time in my studio. So I would volunteer for some of those student ambassador positions in school. And I realized I kind of like this thing of helping other people, like just being around that conversation around art. So that's when I knew I think I want to do teaching or lecturing part-time. And it took years. Like I would go to the schools, universities in Nairobi, and they'd be like, oh, you don't have a master's? We can't allow you to teach. So it was just a dream which I had shelved. Like I'd gone to almost all the colleges. I don't know if I want to name their names here, but I'd gone to almost all the colleges, the universities, and they're like, oh, okay. Nobody gets back to you. But then I get a call in 2016 because there's a friend who I was talking to about this. Because 2015, I left ad agency. I was in ad agency for about combined 3 years. But end of 2015, I was like, I'm done with ad agency. 2016, I get a call from a friend who I'd been talking to about me wanting to teach. He tells me there's a college in town. You should go and teach. I'm like, yeah, sure, I want to come. And then he tells me that the only shift available is Thursday night and Friday night. Yeah? Social life, dead. So I'm like, but anyway, it's the only opening. So I went and I taught I did it for like the first 3-4 months. But it's like it was kind of rough. It wasn't what I was expecting, and I had a class of evening students. Only about 3 of them. Out of those 3, there's only one who was showing up regularly. So I was like, hey, maybe this thing won't work out. Then they got a new principal who really started shaping things around. Her name was Lisette. And I think in terms of my educative mind, she's been it just had the biggest impact in terms of now turning me from because you can be a pro, there's being a pro and there's being an educator, So she's the one who transformed things around. She trusted me with more classes. And yeah, it's been amazing. Like, I do think sometimes it's difficult balancing the two. Sometimes one wants to take more of you than the other. Like I find like if I have illustration jobs that are very busy, that's the time when my students see me less. And then there are times when your students want a lot of you, but you also need to spend time building your illustration career, getting more clients. But when you balance the two well, they both, like my teaching charges my battery for my work. Then the experiences I have in work, I bring those real experiences into class. Those two, they feed each other very nicely.
So it has had a positive impact on your work?
Massive, because this is the thing I love about working with young people.
Yes.
The older generation, anybody when you get older, you kind of start to get set in your ways. Or unfortunately, maybe you face 1-2 rejections. Everybody grows up a dreamer. But I think as people get older, they stop dreaming, they kind of set in their ways. They would rather do the work which they think is going to have less issues. Like, and you've probably seen it, like with collaborations or in the workplace. You go to your boss with what you think is an amazing idea. And then they're like, oh, forget about that. That's too expensive. That's too ambitious. But young people, them, they dream. Like, if you get good students, these guys dream. Them, they think big, Like even you guys just deciding, podcast, why not? Young people are like, why not? And being around that energy is amazing. Like that's how they've impacted me, I think, the best. Their minds are open. Their minds are fluid to change. What I bring to them is just the experience. Because sometimes you have this big idea, you don't know the danger in trying that thing or the areas where it could fall apart. So my job is to bring them like, hey, yeah, that's good, continue. As you're doing that, think about this, also think about this, also talk to this person or research on this thing. That's how they challenge me, that's how they make me better. They keep me loose, they keep me fluid, they challenge my mindset to be like more what if, so that I'm not setting in stone, like just being comfortable with status quo.
Now, you've been recognized and you've also received a couple of awards.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how these accolades translated to your thinking towards perception. Does the perception of the outside world influence your artistic expression?
Okay, in terms of the awards were kind of like, they were interesting. And I had read or watched a lot of videos of people talking about these kind of things. Like, awards are amazing, but they don't really change who you are. But they were like a confirmation that I think we're on the right path. Like we were talking about the quote I'd seen in a video once where these people are talking about people who are artists or influencers have a different way of thinking, a different way of expressing themselves. But most importantly, they know they're on the right path because they know what they're doing is the right path because they feel comfortable in it. A lot of what we do as artists is just trying things. We go off into our instinct, we flow with it, and we have no confirmation if this thing is going to work, or it's going to go. Some experiments I've done which have failed. But when you get awards and recognition, it's almost like people saying, yeah, we recognize what you're doing and we think it's interesting. So that's what I saw it. I also think it was a blessing. I feel like some of those awards, especially the Sondeka one, I feel like that one was a large part because of my students or it's like God gave me that award because for my students. Because once I got that award, and there's some of them are listening, they started listening to me differently. Because teacher, it's like, this guy, why do you want me to do 10 sketches? So I'll just do 2 or 1. But after the award, they're like, how many do you want? You want 10? I'll do 15. It changes how other people see you in some ways, and that can be beneficial and also not beneficial. Like sometimes it can lead people to like pump up your head too much. So I'm always just trying to make sure like I'm staying down to earth. I have same group of friends, same family. We chongona the same, and like I can't go to them and start talking like I'm some big wig. They'll finish me. So I think I took it as an appreciation. It's like people saying that, you know what, we recognize what you're doing, and they're encouraging me to continue.
And from most of your artworks, I've seen that you've infused African patterns and symbolic images.
Yeah.
How do you use these practices to speak emotion in your artwork? And
I think for me, that story starts a long time ago. Like when I think about, I've always been drawing even from I was a kid. Started off posing cartoons and drawing, but the whole of primary was just you drawing what you see or drawing what you like. Then when I got to secondary school, we started being introduced to like abstract art. First still life, then abstract art. And then there's a really cool art mentor I met called Charles Otieno. I met him around Form 2. And this guy really changed everything about how I approached art. He helped me see the bigger picture. Like he helped me see and really planted a seed in my head in terms of just a dream. And he would talk so casually about, I've had students who've gone to Leeds University, Loughborough, Kent, and used to talk a lot about Kent. So me, the kid I am, in my head, halfway through Form 2, there's that dream of Kent. That's the place, that's the plan. Let's do this. So how all of that played a part was Charles was very heavy. Like you'd create the kind of stuff you'd see at Masai Market, but you'd also see the stuff that I was influenced by. Like sometimes I'd see Picasso kind of stuff, or sometimes I love drawing animals. I love drawing animals more than I love drawing people, especially growing up. Because I feel like if you draw a person and you get it wrong, it's very obvious. But when you draw animals, it still looks good. Nobody's going to see the reference picture. They'll just see your version. So that's when the Masai Market influencing geared my head and the African vibes. But it cemented, like it became clear to me, especially when I traveled away for 2 years, and schools, they are no joke. Like that was the culture shock, I think. Like a deadline is a deadline. Standards are high for everyone. Like they don't care who you are. Stuff that I was getting B's, maybe A's here. You go there, you're getting D's or you're barely passing. Wow. So things started working out when I would express things that it's like things that are already deposited inside me. That's when the lecturers would be like, wow, that's different. Now that's you. So I learned that it's important to express the things that you are liking going forward, but also the things that are in you, even from behind. Like every artist is just we're all expressing a version of ourselves, a personality of ourselves. So like to answer your question in terms of how I fuse it in, I think regardless of the task that I'm working on, I always try to ask myself, what do I think about this thing? What have I learned about? And a lot of times it's client work. They'll tell me, we're trying to communicate this. So I'll be like, what do I feel as Brian Omolo about this thing? And then beyond that, what is a visual like that I see? And then other times it's just things that come in the flow. Like sometimes you just start drawing, then you go into flow state, and then it comes together. Yeah. So there's never like a set plan. And sometimes that's nerve-wracking because some clients are like, you see the way you hit the park, you hit a home run with that one. I want that same thing for this one. But the mixture of madness that created that thing is not the same mixture of madness that will create this one. So you won't get the same thing, but you'll get another thing. and it will be a good thing. So that's what has been, I think, good. Yeah.
From what you've said, you're speaking from a perspective of using art to express yourself.
Yeah.
But now, if we bring in design, there's a slight difference between art and design in terms of expression and in terms of say solving a problem.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you build a difference between the two, and how do you separate your emotions from art and design, and what are the benefits of doing that?
Okay. No, it's really good. Like even yesterday, I was drawing like a bit of is it a Venn diagram? The one which is like a circle, then another circle. Then you're showing where things intersect. So that's a really dope question. It's something even I was talking to someone about this week. Design has to achieve a certain purpose. Like if someone sees a logo or they see the save button, most times the save button on any software is in the form of a floppy disk. 90% of people today have never even seen or used a floppy disk. But they understand that when they click that button, it will save my progress. It's not an artwork open for interpretation. But what I found in my career is there are those rare moments when an illustration or digital artwork can also solve a design problem. And that's where now, depending on what kind of a thinker you are, like if you're the type of person who can illustrate things which can communicate the purpose of what this thing is, then that in turn can solve design problems. Like I'll bring an example of the project I did for KO. Which, by the way, like it really surprises me how much that thing has blown up. Like there's a lot of projects I worked on in that 2020. Not that I didn't think it was a dope project. It's just they've way over exceeded even their expectations, I think. And now the reason I think is because they were a client that understood exactly who they were, exactly what they wanted to achieve. The agency that they work with, amazing team. There's a creative director there called Sola Green. The cinematographer was a guy called Densu. Amazing people to work with because they were clear on what it is they wanted. And by the time they even come to you, they know what they want from you. So I honestly feel like my part in the success of that project is just like 30-40%. They laid the runway. Mine was just to take off. So I think as digital artists, you have to choose situations like that. My work is not for everybody. There's some people who my work won't solve their problem, even if I do my best. So it's important, even as clients who go into artists, go to an artist who their work will speak to the problem you're trying to solve. So it's about a matching kind of thing. And then the artist, if this is the kind of work you want to do, you have to develop that voice or that way that you know how to conceptualize and storytell. The storytelling is super important. Like whether you want to use obvious visual elements or you want to tell stories or you want to mix your artwork with like a bit of logos or print work. There's ways you can mix and match those things, but I think it's about storytelling, and it's powerful. So it's dope. Like it's a really dope skill to. If it's what is for you, then you'll find you're able to solve design problems with your art.
You also said you are an entrepreneur.
Yes.
The government introduced the digital taxation, and most of the creatives are working online. So what do you think will affect our ways of income when the taxation is passed?
I really hate it. I hate everything to do with politics in this country. Like, I'm one of those who, can I call myself apolitical? I barely watch news. Because a lot of the times, what is evident is they don't take the time to understand our sector as much as they should.
True.
But they want to eat. That's what it feels like. I look at it like, it's like a tree trying to feed off its own roots. Why not try to help us? Because if we succeed, you'll succeed. There's countries in Europe that pay way more tax than us. And they pay that tax happily because they can see how their government is creating an environment that is conducive for them to succeed. That's the thing which I think government needs to understand. Like, you need to create a situation that makes it easy for people to flourish, because if they flourish, they will then, feed back into the country. But I guess, I know it's a complicated conversation. It's not a simple answer. But I really hope the people who have that power can understand that responsibility that is in their hands, because as the private sector, there's only so much we can do. There's a lot more of the power is on their side, but they are really trying to just a tree feeding off its roots. The fundamentals of how it's been set up is not right. Like, it doesn't make sense. A country cannot get rich off of taxing its people. But perhaps my hope is that it's a temporary solution, because at the end of the day, there's loans they need to pay, there's things that need to move. And I don't think my mindset is the mindset everyone should take. Me, I'm just frustrated with them. That's my honest opinion. But I try to get wiser on how things work so that I can play my part. The time I'm with people, I can inform people on how better they can make decisions that will help their businesses survive. And as they survive, the country survives. I think the answer is just for all of us to be really wise on how countries work, to seek that inspiration for how we can do a lot with a little. Because Africa, we have a lot. Like, there are countries that, the weather conditions are so crazy, but they still flourish and work very well. So here, where our weather is relatively better, we have a really strong, intelligent workforce. At least we have a good internet. So people can learn, there's options. It's difficult, but there's still options. So I think the call is for us to just become wiser and play our part. Sometimes we think that, the older generation are the ones who sacrificed so that us we can have freedom. Now things are okay for us. But every generation has its cross to carry. Yeah, so I will try my best. Yeah.
Now, before we started recording, we had a conversation around the growth of the digital platform. So in terms social media. But currently, social media is quite saturated with artists. Everyone is trying to be seen. Everyone wants to be seen on the digital platform. So what strategies or what philosophies did you follow to maybe come up with your distinctive art style? Because if I saw an artwork and it's done by you, I'd immediately know it's yours before I even maybe see your signature down there, or So what strategies would you recommend for someone to come up with their own style, and how to be
specialize?
No, not really, but be in the space that is saturated but still be seen.
Okay. It's a good question. I think it would be very difficult for people today to do what I did, or for it to succeed for them in the way that it succeeded for me, because it was a very different time. I'm kind of in that bridge of when analog shifted to digital. When I was learning my style, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have, what was the other one? Snapchat. Like, back then, the only social media platforms that were there were Facebook. I don't know if there was Twitter, maybe I just wasn't using it, but there was Facebook. Sometimes people would post there. But I think one huge benefit of being in that time was that I created and tried things and maybe showed people around me, but I didn't have that pressure of, I've posted it online, then I've only gotten 4 likes after 2 weeks. That's something which kills a lot of creatives, and then they end up not sharing.
True.
The other thing, and there's a documentary which every single young creative should watch, Social Dilemma. There's Social Dilemma, and then if you're interested in the political side of it, there's also The Great Hack. Those 2 documentaries are supremely powerful because they let you know just how dangerous sometimes social media platforms can be. These things have been designed to make you addicted to them, And there's a time I used to give people an assignment where you have to have a social media presence for your work. But nowadays, it's not a must. Like, there are some creatives who, they actually don't want to have their stuff on social media because they feel like I'll start being negatively impacted by, it got this many likes. Or maybe the adverse things happens where it's like, now you have thousands of likes, so you think you're this big deal, and then you walk down the street and everybody treats you like a normal human being. So I think I empathize with people who are in this generation, like, because you've grown up very differently than me. I grew up in a time before any of these things were there, and the benefit of that was I wasn't overly stimulated. I'd be in a mat bored, going all the way to school, coming back, and then being that bored, like on TV we had how many channels? We had KBC, KTN, I think STV that used to play Samurai X. Like, now you have YouTube, you have Netflix, you have so many stimulants, and those things can make it very difficult for you to just kind of gear your creative zone. Boredom is important. Like, be bored, and then as you're bored, you just create, but create for you and nobody else. And then now when you decide you want to start putting it out there, have a space online that you're comfortable with, whether it's Behance, whether it's Instagram, and share just to share. Like, don't share for you to start thinking about the numbers and then now you grow your platform. Because if you think about it, you're now being their employee. You're working for them for free. Because you're really doing all these things to promote their platform, thinking that you're promoting yourself. But if you really want it to help you, share there, yes, so that the people who want to find you can find you easily. But the idea that comes to my mind is do the kind of social media presence where you actually talk to people. So like, and I think that's the reason why certain platforms like Clubhouse became so famous. Clubhouse is doing well. The other one, Twitter Spaces, is doing well because they are now forcing people to interact in real time together. Because now with social media platforms having algorithms and things not sharing as organically as it used to, you kind of have to do a bit of both. Like, post and share your stuff online, but also have a way that you're meeting with people, whether physically or through webinars where you're actually communicating to people real time. That's the key. But don't care about the numbers. Don't care about the likes. Just care about, this is what I love to do. This is my process. And then the people who will connect with you are the right ones to connect with you. Don't be afraid to show, like, this is what I can do now. Because if it's what you love to do, in time, it will just get better. And there's people who we've followed over years, and we've just loved following them. And we've seen their growth.
Yeah.
And the day we have money to be able to afford to hire them to do for us something, ile siku niko na pesa vizuri, mtu wa Madheka, I'm just going straight. Because I've been following his stuff for so long, and I've really been hugely inspired by him. And I think just the way he shares with us that story of how he creates, I think you should do that in a way that's comfortable for you. Those who are okay being in front of a camera, making vlogs, do that. Those who just show a bit of pictures of their sketches, I think do it in a way where you're not super thinking about it. And like me, the moment I start thinking, my IG needs to have the perfect grid, I know I've overthought. I know. So I try to make it simple, just having a balanced mind. Yeah. Like who you are online and who you are in real life. Who you are in real life is more important. Yeah.
I like how you've said it.
Another question, as a creative, one of the challenges we usually have while starting up is specializing. You'll find that you are an artist, you are a cameraman, you are an editor, but you don't know which field you'll fall to. So how was your process, and how did you select? How did you settle to the field that you're working on? Yeah.
Now I'm glad you've asked me that, because it reminded me, because in that previous question, I was going to say something about style. I think, I don't think an artist or creative has to have just one style. I think by nature, human beings like to put people in boxes. You know? Like even you, let's say today you're in class and you meet 50 people. your mind will start to put them in boxes. These 12 ni watu wa Islando. Hawa ni mababi wa OST. Ingine ni international students. Ni wa Hindi. Like our mind likes to put people in boxes, and a lot of times, like let's say an illustration agent or a boss who's coming to hire you, to quickly understand you and put you in a box in their head, they'll be like, are you an illustrator? Are you a photo manipulator? What are you? But what I've found is you don't necessarily have to just be one thing. Like tomorrow I might decide, let me do photo manipulation. And that's actually okay. The whole issue of style is more people marketing our stuff that has put that on us. It makes it easier for them to sell you when they see that you're one thing. And the clients understand like, oh, it looks like this is your style, this is your one thing. But I've seen people thrive who do a bit of different things. Like one moment they're doing good videos, another moment they're doing amazing photography, another moment they're doing illustration. So if you're creative and you feel like you want to create different things, just create. Naturally, it'll come to you that, you know what? Like I think for me, I settled into illustration because I liked the process of making it. I liked what was coming out of it. I still sometimes do photo manipulation. I still like that as much. But the choice of what you want to delve into further will come to you because of just how excellent you can see you're becoming at it. I think when I looked at my illustration and I looked at how, even just the process of how I've understood how to use Adobe, it naturally just made sense for me to go that direction, And then also just the nature of an illustrator's career. I didn't like being in a tense agency office where, like we're in cubicles, but sometimes there's office tension, so you like duck. And I didn't like that vibe at all. Like, I like how illustrators have autonomy. For me, autonomy is real wealth, If I can set my life up in a way where I'm autonomous, and by autonomous, I just mean I'll be able to choose what I work on. I'll be able to choose the clients I work with, work with people who their products and their services, like they go hand in hand with my values. So I just feel like, whether you guys are doing good things, like me helping you and you helping your customers, I'm glad to be part and parcel of that process. I think that's the key. Like we're all just being in service of people. Even if you're just creating stuff, then you put it online for people to look at, or you create stuff that people print and wear as T-shirts or as art that they put on their wall. That's still being in service. We are giving. Yeah. So you create, and then the rest will come to you. Yeah.
So you shouldn't limit yourself.
Yeah, like funny enough, when I was in university, I wrote a dissertation, and my thesis was, it's better to be a jack of all trades than a master of one. The reason I chose that topic was because at that time I felt like, man, I want to be open and I want to try different things. I might want to act. I might want to shoot photography. I might want to do this. I might want to do animation. I don't want to just do one thing, But as I tried all those different things, there's some things which I might have had a bit of passion for them before, but the flavor for it is shed. Like it's something which I'll go back to from time to time. But somehow with illustration and design, that one's never issued. That one every day I just want to do it more and more and more. So you'll have certain things that will just come back at you more and more. But there are some who will actually stay. We call those people multifaceted. Like they actually are comfortable doing different things. I would just advise people like those to know their limits, have a healthy balance. As a human being, you need time to rest, you need time to... You need time. It takes so much even just to be excellent in one thing. So trying to be excellent at more than one thing, just have a good balance. Because nowadays with online, people create their companies, create their online profiles, and then you put online that I'm so and so studio, But it's actually really, really taxing trying to do all that as just one person. Yeah. So have a good relationship with yourself. Like don't stretch yourself too far. But if your creativity and your curiosity has taken you that direction, just answer that call. I don't know where it's going. It could be going somewhere. Most times it's going somewhere good. Yeah.
I really like how you've put it. Like that's one of the few different perspectives I've gotten from that question, because most creatives currently, I don't know if it's from influence or that's how they feel, but most of them suggest that it's better for you to niche down to a specific service that you're providing. But I think I'll side with you on that, because personally, I'm that kind of creative who likes to explore different things. So today you'll see me working on composites. The next day I'll be working on digital art. The next time I'll be trying out animation. The next time I'll be working on motion graphics. But again, as you've said, such kind of people should know their limits, because I can also speak to that. It's quite overwhelming sometimes, and it's you get tired. I think I'd say you get tired faster compared to someone who's specializing in one specific area. I think that's something you learn as you go. You learn what your limits are, and how to be easy with yourself, because at the same time, mental health for creatives is also something that's really vital. And that brings me to another question. You mentioned that you worked at an agency for around 3 years.
Combined.
Okay.
So I was at one for a short time, then another one for a short time. Then the last agency I was there for like about 2 years, 3-4 months.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that being able to, you called it
autonomy.
Autonomy.
Freedom to choose.
Now, how would you compare the two? Working at an agency where I know you have to work on deadlines, there's so much work, you don't have the leeway to, express yourself, because you know how agencies work. And then there's this other side where you have the opportunity to, express yourself and just, push your boundaries. Could you build us a picture of the difference between the two?
Okay. I like that question. The reason I like that question is because it's been something which I've tried to be mindful of, because now I know maybe there's younger people looking at me and making decisions based on what I think about stuff. So what I'll say, as me, Brian Omolo, I'm never going back. If you see me go back, it's because I have Nikona Deni, I have kids who need school fees. Like, if it's up to me, I'll never go back. And the reason for it is because, I had a tough experience. I had a toxic experience, but I don't think all agency experience is toxic. I think quite a few people get toxic agency experience. Not all of it is bad, because advertising is still a really dope industry. Like, it's a dope practice, it's a dope craft. In that environment is where I learned how to storytell. It's where I learned how to build big ideas, concepts. It's sort of like, sometimes people go to school to learn something. My 2-3 years experience in agency was the equivalent of 2 master's degrees in, speaking, storytelling, selling ideas. So that was really amazing. Like, I'm glad I got that experience. But what made me walk away is just that you don't have creative freedom. You have to think about your creative director. You have to think about the client. There's office politics, sometimes corruption. Sometimes we're the people who presented the best pitch, but because of corruption, it went to another company instead of us. So there's all these outside factors that affect how well your work is going to be seen, how best to put out your work. I didn't like that, me as a person. But there are some people who stay in that system and figure out how to make that system work for them. And for those who are inspired to do that, like maybe about 2 months ago, we visited 2 agencies where the alumni students are, and they are thriving there, they are happy. So it's made me realize, I think the best way to answer that question is understand yourself. Understand what type of person you are, understand what type of creative you are. I think I'm just that type of person who needs my own space, my own autonomy to make the stuff I want to make. And then once you understand that, these personality tests really help a lot. When you understand yourself, your personality, your temperament, then you can go towards the career that best fits your temperament. There are some people who are so tactile. They love to be active. They want to go from set to set. They can't sit in one place, you know. So do a career which will have you moving around and what. Then there are others who are just like, no, that's too much. I want like to control my routine. We all have different temperaments and personalities. It's so important for creatives to understand your own personality, your own temperament. Then you can go in the direction of what works for you. Yeah. So, and know that each side has its positives and its negatives. Like those are negatives from being in agency. But some of the positives were, like before I went to agency, before I would get exposure to certain spaces or certain people, it would take forever. But now you're working in an agency, now you have access to the agency's people, you're being trusted to go and pitch in certain spaces. Like I'd be in certain offices where I'm just like, I can't even believe I'm here and it's happened so quickly. That's the advantage. Like it's an amazing learning ground, but know why you're there, because there's certain negative things I've seen in that culture and in that environment, which if you're not mindful of, it will really take you like this. It's a highly competitive, especially when you get to the top level, it's highly competitive. It's very sometimes cutthroat, but it's not all bad. It's just my temperament. It wasn't for me. Yeah, and I think if any company starts becoming bad or toxic, just know it's not the only company in the industry. Like you can go to another one. You'll still take what you've learned there, go to the other one. On this side now of freelance illustration, whatever, the challenges are your employee of the month every month. It's always your turn to do logistics. It's always your turn to do administration work. If you don't answer that email, there's no secretary or junior designer to do that thing for you. It's you to do everything. You're the same guy doing business development. You have to go and generate leads. So for some people, they're just like, I can't. Or thinking about pricing. You have to wear also your business hat and negotiate for the best deal for yourself. When you're employed inside, you don't worry about pricing. You know your salary has come. And you can even plan. Even you can make decisions like mortgage, buy a car on a loan, because I'm quite secure here. Salary is predictable. Yeah, so just decide what best works for you. Either can be nourishing. I've seen people flourish on both sides. Yeah.
Now you brought up the topic on pricing.
Yes.
How did you maneuver that? How did you? Because I know it's been a journey, definitely, and yeah. I'm definitely sure what you were charging before isn't what you're charging currently. So how did you maneuver that field, and how did you get to know what numbers to give your clients and how to value your work?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question again, and it's something which is super duper important for every creative to understand, and also not feel bad when it's not as clear to you, because even me, sometimes there are times when I'm like still racking my head, like, okay, how much should I charge for this one? And then calling people I know, like, okay, situation like this, how much should you charge? At the beginning, it was very much like trial and error. You just charge what you think you can get from the client. But over time, and then using like content that I found online, I came across the principle of value-based pricing, which I think just makes a lot of sense. Because a lot of times creatives, when they're starting, the tendency is to start thinking in terms of pay, like an hourly rate or a day rate. But there's things I've learned which make me realize the hourly rate it's not good for you or for the client. Because if I can do something quickly, should I be paid less because I took a short time? If I've done something quickly, I've saved you time. And then you can launch that product or that service of yours a week before your competitor, a month, a year before your competitor. Like, look at Safaricom. They launched a functioning M-Pesa quicker than all their... Like, there's literally nothing these other guys can do. Some of them are even comfortable being second place. They're even telling you, this is how you can function with M-Pesa. They've accepted, Yani. So if you're someone who can do things quickly, you've saved that person time. And time is the most valuable commodity in the world. So if you've saved someone time, you should get more value, not less. Then the other thing can happen. Sometimes a project just takes a lot longer than you thought. the first idea I got wasn't as good, or the client has some changes and I need to work on it a bit longer so that I can make it good, you know. But what's the client going to think? They're going to be like, Brian, you're just taking a long time so that I pay you more money. So time-based pricing just doesn't work. Either way you think about it, and it's a very controversial topic online, but you'll come to see on both sides it doesn't serve us. You should charge a percentage of the value you're creating for that client. So that means as a creative, you need to be aware of like the business value of what you bring, or the value of the problem you're solving. Like if you make for a client an amazing, let's say, a logo, and they don't have to change that logo for like 50 years. Like look at Coca-Cola, they've not changed their logo for now over 50 years. But then you look at Pepsi, they seem to change theirs every week. Might have changed it right now as we're talking. It costs so much money to have to redo those things again. But if you're the guy who can do for them something really good the first time, and then they don't have to do, that's a huge problem you're solving for them. Yeah, so the businesses and the people that you're serving, they are in competition with each other. And if you're the person who can give them something that makes an audience choose them instead of someone else, you need to understand like how much value that is you're bringing. Then that way, you'll be able to confidently ask for a percentage of that. And reasonable business people have no problem with that. They know it costs money to make money. Like some of the equipment you guys have, some really nice equipment you're using here, probably wasn't cheap. But you know the value of what you're getting from this equipment. You know it will go and then make you more back. I really cried when I was buying my laptop. Because before that, mommy and daddy bought my laptop. Now it's me. So I'm just like, 160,000. But it's paid back times 20, 30, So it costs money to make money. So that's the same mindset you have to go to when you're pricing. You just have to learn. So, and that part, forgive yourself if that part takes you time. Like understanding the value of how much this creative work, this logo, this whatever you've created, that you can learn with time. You can also talk to, which is something which maybe my generation didn't do as much. We didn't talk to each other. We were afraid to call a stranger and be like, hey, by the way, how much do you charge for this? How much should I charge? But like you guys, I encouraged you to talk to one another, like talk to us, like tell you, like, by the way, this one, I think you should be charging this much. Learn from online. There's content available for free. My God, I really wish that was there in our time. Because us, you just had to figure it out. Where else would you go? A project has come, someone has told you to send an invoice. So now you just sit. Because when you don't understand the value of what you give, you charge based on your pocket. In your mind, in my mind, I can't possibly fathom how someone would pay 200,000-300,000 for this illustration. So what do? I'm like, 50K by there is very okay for me. So let me ask for 50. And then they come back, they tell you, apana, chukua 35. I'm like, okay, but next time, utanipatia hiyo 50. Meanwhile, they've made millions from what you've given them. You should have gotten 300.
That's a really great answer. Like it's really opened my mind. Now, from still on the same topic, say you get a project, say Coca-Cola reaches out to you, they need a logo. Yes. Definitely you're going to quote a lump sum amount of money. But say Coca-Cola reaches out to an agency and you're working under the agency, you're definitely going to be paid way less than, say, maybe even 10% of what Coca-Cola is paying the agency. Yeah, so
maybe even less than that,
I'd say I think that's one of the challenges of working in agencies.
Yeah, but also remember, high risk, high reward. But also people who take high risk also sometimes take huge hits. Like you in the agency, it's lower risk. You're getting a salo. If you don't get that salo, you can sue them or quit. So if you're in the agency, and it's also Nairobi, there are some people who, I need to make sure I'm getting a certain amount every month. If your life is set up that way, don't feel bad umeenda pali you're being paid a salary. Salary is a good thing. But if you also feel like you want autonomy and you want to take on that risk of now I have to negotiate for myself, and I have to deal with, project could work, could not work, I've put in all this time. It's a higher risk to do it on your own, but with that higher risk sometimes comes high rewards. So in projects like those, and please understand, I like what you said, that with Coca-Cola or a big brand like that, you charge more. You're not charging more just because you want a lot of money. You're charging because let's say you do a dope artwork for them, and then they use it in a multinational campaign. They might even use it in different continents. There's a ton of value they're going to get from that, And it's because they're getting that a lot of value, that's why you're charging them more.
Yeah.
A different local company could even want, maybe a local drink brand, could want to pay you for that same artwork. I won't charge the local company the same, because as it's still the same dope artwork, but that local company can only use it maybe here. If they're getting a bit big, maybe they'll use it in other counties, maybe in Tanzania, UG. But that's a very small amount of value that they can possibly create there versus what a big international brand can create. So you're not charging just because you feel like you want a lot of money. You're charging because you can see these guys are going to get a lot of value from and you want a percentage of that value. Every reasonable business person will be okay with that. The unreasonable ones, though, they will have a problem with that. And those are the ones the thing that you can learn very quickly is red flag situations. Every creative can and should know the situations that are red flag situations, the situations where this is not fair, I need to walk away. Don't learn everything through bitter experience. It make you have a sour taste for the industry, and then you'll be like, I'm quitting. Let me go back to my grandma's farm. I'm making more money doing that. Yeah, so you guys are learning from these conversations, your viewers are learning from these conversations. Online there's information that can teach you. You all should know there's red flag situations so that you don't go for them. Yeah.
Still on that topic about collaboration and corporates, what are some of the challenges that you have faced, and how can the younger creatives in this generation, how can we tackle them? Working with a corporate kama Coca-Cola, the steps, teamwork, how can this generation learn from what you've
You mean doing artworks for brands?
Yes.
I think, number one, go into every negotiation being okay if it doesn't work out. Sometimes when you're young and you're eager, you're like, hey, I have to make this thing work. They've emailed me, they've DM'd me. It must happen. The problem with having that kind of a mindset is the other person can sense it. And what do? They start lowballing in terms of price. They're like, by the way, we have 100K, take it or leave it. All the while, that's a project which they should probably be paying you a lot more than that. If you go in ready to negotiate and be like, you know what, actually, a project like this would probably cost around the 500 mark. And it's not to mean that every big client pays you that much, but there'll be a situation where you can just see my value is this much, or the value of what I'm bringing is this much. Propose and ask for that value, and then wait to hear what they say. And if they're not in agreement with that, if they're going below your minimum, be okay with letting it go. I think for me, starting out, I was just like, it must happen, And I hastily throw myself into that situation. And then you just see that it's a disaster. Another very important thing is this client should have a brief, or they should participate. And by a brief, I just mean a description of what they want, what they're trying to achieve, those kind of stuff. They need to have that. If they don't have that, they should also participate in the process of making that brief. Whenever I see a client just wanting to rush me, just something simple, they don't want to do a discovery call. Those always, 95% end up being bad situations. We have to be clear on what we're trying to achieve, who is the audience, what is the thing. Those are the things to look out for at the beginning. And there's many other things. This can easily be like a 10-episode conversation about stuff like those. But really big parts are negotiate. Don't be afraid to ask for your worth. Don't be afraid to let a deal go. But most importantly, it's about a brief, and it's about choosing a situation that works for you. Like maybe my style of illustration, which has like rough hand-drawn texture, will not work for certain brands. And if you show them your portfolio and they say that this is not what is going to work for it, it's okay. Don't force it to work or force them. Go into that situation, just helping them. Another really powerful thing, is something that just came to mind, is I just thought about it. More on that issue of like not being afraid to let it go. Sometimes even there might be scenarios where you need to insist on maybe deposit, just so that you get to do the job properly. I think those are some good places to start. But believe that what you're giving them is of value. Believe that what you're giving them is of value, and just work with people who also believe that. Yeah.
If you were to build us a picture, say 5-10 years from now, how would you envision the future of design and art, keeping in mind the technological advancements, societal changes, stuff like that?
10 years is far away, because
let's
in a year,
5.
AI has really changed how people think about creating. I think definitely I see the AI definitely playing a part. But I also think people who create differently will still be useful and will still be valuable. But I think people who are creating generic work might be in trouble. Like if your stuff just looks like a template that I can easily do in a few minutes, that's not going to be of as much value. But I also think it will depend on where technology goes. Now we're going into metaverse, so people want to create things that can be useful in terms of the metaverse. So in a way, it's exciting. For some, they'll find it scary. It's difficult to say exactly how we're going to interact with devices or interact with design, but I think designers, creatives will be even more important when that time comes, because as much as machine learning is doing some amazing things, you can still see as you use them. Like I've used some of these AI things. You can see how they'll still need a human being to instruct him on what it needs to do. But outside of the AI conversation, it's just more. The more people will see that, okay, I can use this thing to create narratives from my perspective, that will change how content is consumed, and that will change the kind of media that we're experiencing. Like now we've seen, like with K-dramas and K-movies. I watched Parasite. I don't know if you guys watched Parasite, which was by a Korean director. Amazing movie. Amazing. Because sometimes that happens. You used to always seeing American Hollywood films or UK films. Now you see a South Korean film. Is it not? So those type of things will happen a lot more. It will be a normal thing. Like we're now seeing a lot of Kenyan content on Netflix. By then it will be a very normal thing. So people can start now. Start creating your own stuff now. Start making things for your audience, inspired by your journey, inspired by what you love to do. And by then there'll be many platforms that will. You just have to believe that it's of value.
And do you have a favorite piece that you are proud of right now, or you are working on?
I mean, I really like the Nairobi one, the one that won the Sondeka Award. That Nairobi artwork was really special for me, because it opened up a lot, and it really is just my story of what I think about the city. So I loved that piece. There's also a piece I did for rehabilitation. It was part of a challenge by an organization called Heart Kenya. So I really liked that one as well. There's also one I'm working on now, which it sort of has like some bits of it sort of animating. And then there's something I did for Nescafe. That was my personal favorite. But I've also been hugely, like the KO project, the response has been really dope. Like the people who've sent me their thoughts of what they thought about it, and that's been really encouraging. Like I don't take it for granted. It's been amazing.
And where can we find your work?
You can find it on my Instagram. I regularly post Instagram, O'Brien Studio. I also have a Behance portfolio page. So if you go to behance.net /Brian Omolo, you'll also find those two places are where I like to post my work. Yeah.
This has really been an amazing conversation. I felt like you were just directly talking to me, because most of the things you've said are things I was trying to figure out even currently. And I feel like you've provided some answers to some dilemmas I had. Yes, this conversation has really been amazing. I'm glad that I think this is the second time I'm meeting you.
Yeah.
You're the first time we met at Nairobi Design Week. Yeah, and you're a really interesting personality. I'm glad that you're here. Yes, hopefully we can schedule another conversation around now we'll be talking about finances, how to quote your services, and even protecting yourself as a creative. Now before we close up, we are going to have a trivia session.
Okay.
It's quite aside from the creative industry, aside from this conversation, it's just random questions. So the first question, what is the chemical name? Common salt, chumvi ya home. Okay, so what's the chemical name for that? If you did chemistry.
Very long. I dropped it in Form 2.
But you covered it still. Man,
was it sulfate or something? I don't remember. I don't even like that one.
I'm not sure.
Sodium chloride.
Sodium chloride. I knew it was something like that. Completely.
Okay, this one sounds easy. The largest continent.
Africa.
The largest continent.
Africa is not the largest? Because there's a time I saw this map where they were piecing all the continents into... Africa is not the largest?
Asia.
It's Asia.
It's Asia? Okay.
All right, who painted the Mona Lisa?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
At least.
This one, Kikosa, I don't know. How many sides are there in an octagon?
8.
Oh, okay, sir. After how many years is the Olympic held?
4.
Okay, 4, yeah.
Hizo nimepata tu juu ya sport. Watching sports.
So last question. You see, jeans zetu, our jeans, the pockets, they have kuna kwanga na another smaller pocket.
Yes.
Do you know what it's? Why it's
Is
there?
it for pocket clocks?
Hey, man.
That one, okay, I'd watched something about that, but then I hadn't seen it till then, so I wasn't sure. So it was for pocket clocks?
Yeah, pocket clocks.
Yeah. Now I use it for keys. I put my house keys, my car keys there.
Coins.
Yeah.
All right, that has been quite amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we had this conversation. I'm glad that you spared your time to come here. And
Yeah, thanks for having me.
yes, kuna kitu kingine kusema. So this has been the 7th episode of The Creative Scene. Hopefully you've learned a few things from Brian Omolo. If you want to reach out to him, we'll just place his socials somewhere on the video. Yes, this has been an amazing conversation. Make sure you tune in to our social media handles so you don't miss out the conversations that we'll be having. We have a lineup of amazing guests. We are still in the digital space in the creative industry, and our next guest, this is going to be an amazing conversation because it's something that's developing in the creative industry and even technologically. So it's going to be an amazing conversation. We'll be having an amazing guest. So yeah, stay tuned, and thank you for the support. I hope you're learning a few things from the guests that we have hosted. And yeah, that's it for now. If you have any comments, just leave them down below. Thank you for watching, and bye.